the temperature for Portales, New Mexico, since we have Coach Ty Hiatt with us from the Eastern New Mexico Greyhounds. Good morning, Coach. Let's see here. I've got to hit a different button. Hang on just a second. What did I do? Well, I can hear me. I can't hear you. Is your mic okay?
Yes, sir.
There we are. Okay.
Now we're working.
It's kind of a new setup for us here, and when you work with the same configuration for 30 years and then it's different, it takes a while for the brain to get adjusted to that. So how are things in Portales, New Mexico today?
You know what, besides, as you were reading through all the weather, besides everyone heating up, I'll tell you, we couldn't be any happier. We had a really big 7-on-7 tournament this past Friday. We had 30 schools on campus. We had over 1,100 kids. Especially a lot of teams within the region. Roswell was up here, and Artesia and Hobbs and Carlsbad, Lovington. So all the really good schools in the state, they were up here on Friday. And for the most part, everyone was able to get a little bit of shade in between playing and all those things. But it was a great event. And, the thing that we were talking about as a coaching staff this morning is we're just, we're one day closer to starting training camp.
That's right. So an event like you described, the 7-on-7, does that take place on the main football field there at Eastern?
It does, yes. So we used our main stadium, and we actually we have 2 practice fields right across from the stadium. We actually had to use our baseball stadium, and then we had to be able to configure some fields over by our strength facility. So again, when you've got 1,100 kids on campus, there's a lot of going on. There's a lot of moving pieces. But I'll tell you, we have some phenomenal high school coaches in the state, specifically, I think, in this region. And I was just really happy that they were all able to be here. A lot of guys that are former Greyhound alums. So to be able to have them and all their kids on campus, it was a great way for us just to show all the things that ENMU here in Portales has to offer, and I think all the kids had a great experience.
Well, for those that are unfamiliar with Coach Ty Hiatt, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and what steps have you taken that have led you to be at Eastern?
Yeah, so originally grew up in Eastern Oregon, and grew up on a cattle ranch about an hour and a half outside of Boise, Idaho, and it's pretty funny because growing up, we were very much high desert, a lot of sagebrush, really big ranching and farming community. And so not to fast forward too much, but when I interviewed to be able to come here to Eastern in Portales, and I first got to Portales, everyone was asking me, they're like, man, do you like it? They say it's really dry, and there's a lot of dairies, and there's a lot of those things. And, and with my background growing up, it was right at home. So really for me, this is, I love coaching football, especially at the college level. And to be able to be here in a community that's so amazing, and with my family, with our 3 boys, and just, I don't know, it's part of my childhood still, but then being able to do something that I'm passionate about with coaching. But when I left home, I actually went out east, and I went to a school called Southern Virginia. And it's funny when I talk with our kids about all these things, because this was before the time of cell phones.
Yeah.
All of our kids nowadays, I don't think they understand. I don't think they've ever seen a calling card. Right? And I think everyone remembers those. You had the continental number, and then you had the international number, and all those things. But I still remember that when I left, and my mom, she went to Kmart. I don't even think Kmart exists anymore.
That's right.
She went to Kmart and loaded me up on those calling cards, and I went out east, and it was a phenomenal experience. I ended up getting a bachelor's and a master's degree out there, and I ended up coaching at Southern Virginia, and I coached at a school at Frostburg State in Maryland, and then the school that I was previously at was Shepherd University, which is about an hour outside of Washington, D.C. And throughout my coaching career, 2 of the schools that I was at, it was, we had to work really hard to be really good. Maybe we didn't have all the other things that programs had, and we had to recruit really well and develop our players. And that really taught me a lot about how to be able to build and sustain a program. And when I was at Shepherd University, that school, for those not familiar in Division II football, they're traditionally top 5, top 10 in the program. So it was a great experience for me to be able to just see how one of the best programs in the country runs day in, day out, just from a different perspective. Because then once you're the one getting chased every single day by every single team in the conference, it's a little bit different mindset. And we were able to have a lot of success. I've been very fortunate to be able to make it to national quarterfinal games and win region championships and conference championships. And I've been very lucky and fortunate to be on some really good teams. And when the opportunity came up to come here to Eastern, this was something that was really appealing to me because Eastern's always had strong tradition in football. There's been some phenomenal coaches that have come through here. Some of the most recent ones, Coach Kelly Lee, and then, Coach Josh Lynn, who Josh's brother is a head coach at Roswell.
Right.
And, you just talk about some phenomenal coaches. You go back to Coach Bud Elliott and Jack Scott, and just all these coaches have done such a good job. And so to me, that was really appealing. And, the other appealing thing to me with this program is that we play in a conference that's extremely hard. In the Lone Star Conference, you go up against those Texas schools, and as we all know, football is very, very important in Texas. I think that's one of the things that kind of separates some of the programs in the southeast region of the state. You look at like the Hobbs and the Artesias and the Carlsbads and the Lovingtons. Like football's different in that area. It's very much a feel of Texas. So to be able to compete in a conference like that was something that was really appealing, and to be able to do it at a school where we're the underdog a little bit. We've got to have, and my kids always give me a hard time, and I talk about always putting a chip on our shoulder. That's who we are here in Portales and here at Eastern. But I think that's something that our coaches, that we love that every single day. I think the players that we recruit here, they also have that chip, and they also want to be able to prove people wrong. And so I can tell you, going through the first year, I'll tell you, every coach has a book that they write. If I was able to write my coaching career when I all get done, I'll probably have 4 or 5 chapters after that first year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I learned, and you don't learn it until you get in that chair.
That's true. What was it that said, I'm going to be a coach? Was there an event, or is that something you kind of always wanted to do, was be a coach or coach football?
One of the big things with my childhood growing up was that the community that I grew up in had about 1,200 people. So as we go through, especially like this region, and this is why it was so appealing to me. Like, we go into a lot of these high schools, and they were very similar to the high school that I grew up in. Like, you had your athletes where you played all 3 sports. You played football, and then you went into basketball season, then you went into baseball. And then you had summer camps, and you started it all over again. And you had the same group of friends, and the parents. We all knew each other. We were always together and helping each other. And I just had some very influential coaches. One in particular, Coach Jeff Jacobs, who, when I was, between that sophomore and junior year, I think like a lot of young men, you start to grow up a little bit, and you might get sideways, or you just have a lot of roads that you can go down. And I just had a coach that every single day helped me in the classroom, helped me on the field, would help me outside with like different church activities or whatever else it was. Mm-hmm. And when I went off to go play college football, I knew right away that I wanted to coach. I knew that, I had a passion for just sports in general. I love being able to see, like, in all of our high school kids, kids that we recruit, I love that they play other sports. I love that they get involved with the community and be able to help people. And I knew I wanted to do that. I didn't know anything about the pay of a coach. I didn't know anything, how that worked. My grandpa's 94 years old, and he still works on the family ranch back home, and he still thinks I don't have a real job. But it's been such a huge blessing, because I think one of the things that really sticks out now with going into my 15th year of coaching is that you get to see young men change. You get to see them change. You get to know their families. You get to understand that these young men are real people. Mm-hmm. That they do have trials, that they have, there's different things that they go through. And as a coach, you have an opportunity to make a difference, just like you do as a father with your own children or within your family, nieces and nephews. you get to have that same opportunity just on a much larger scale when you have 105 young men. And I really think that's something like with our coaching staff is one of the things I've tried really hard to do is that I think we have coaches here that really care about the young men, and obviously we're competitive as them and we want to win games. But what's really important to us is that they graduate. Probably one of the things that I'm really proud of our kids is that this past season we had the highest team GPA out of any team in the Lone Star Conference. And for our football team, when you're talking about 105, 110 young men, really proud of them for that accomplishment, because that's the whole purpose of being here, to be able to get their degree and be able to network and make connections so that then they can do whatever their passion is, so that they can pursue that and that they can go out and make a difference and make the world better. So really kind of get back to, not to be too long-winded,
no.
That was, I just had good coaches when I was young.
And that inspired you, and you've been coaching 15 years. You've been your first year at Eastern. Was it everything you expected, or what were some of the biggest surprises and challenges that you had to overcome in your position there at Eastern?
The biggest challenge overcoming was just being able to get here so late. When I got hired, it was the middle of April last year, and really didn't get on campus till the beginning of May. We weren't able to get our entire coaching staff hired until middle of July, because sometimes those things just take a little bit of time. And you look at this past couple of years in New Mexico, I would say that COVID's been pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
COVID really took a toll, and I really feel for the young men and women, especially in education. It was really hard because so many things were moved to online or social distancing, and not being able to do so many activities or those type things. And it had a huge impact on, K through 12. And I think it had a big impact in higher education. So when I got here, the team hadn't done workouts and I don't know how long. There hadn't been a true spring football season, which is so crucial to the development of the team. And there were a lot of young men that could have come back for a last year of eligibility or those type things, but ended up transferring to another school that was participating during that time. And there's no hard feelings towards that, because I understand that the time to play is a small window. But I would say the hardest thing for us to overcome was just all those things with COVID. I will say that once we got to the fall season and we started practices, and I think our administration did a phenomenal job of following all the rules and the safety procedures that were in place at that time. And I would say with our kids, like, we were extremely young last year. We're going to be young this year, not as young as last year, but we'll still be young. But you go into a conference like the Lone Star Conference and you're playing with a lot of freshmen and sophomores. There's just different things that you go through, trials as you go through as a team. And I would say that was probably just the biggest one with the COVID, and then with us just being so new to everyone, coaches and players, everyone getting to know each other. But it was a great learning experience, because it was something that, I had been through, like I said, like programs that had rebuilt before, and you fight and claw. I had never really been through something like that. Probably like a lot of us, we've never been through a situation like that.
Right, the COVID thing, yeah.
And I can tell you that with that, I think there were some things that made us better coaches, made us better teachers, educators, those type things. And I think it really paid off for us this winter and spring, and then as we've gone through the summer. I will tell you that one of the things that I've been so proud of is, we've got 65 young men right now back on campus who have a lease here in town or whatever else, and they're paying their own way, but they're here for summer workouts. They might have a job here in town, those type things. And I think for all those young men to go through what we went through last fall, I think it just really instilled in them is that, you have an opportunity to do something right now. Don't take it for granted. Take advantage of every opportunity you have. And I've been really happy with our kids working to do that every day.
Let me ask you this. You had the 7-on-7 and all the high school football players that were in town this past week. I'm sure you kind of look at it as a recruitment opportunity, at least being able to assess the talent. What's going to be your philosophy as far as bringing in players from, say, southeast New Mexico, from Roswell, Artesia, other parts of New Mexico to play at Eastern?
Well, I can tell you one of the things that we did this summer is that we took from the first 2 weeks of June, we did 5 satellite camps through the state of New Mexico. And we had over 400 kids just from the state at all those camps. So we did a camp up in Farmington, we did one in Albuquerque, we did camp in Cruces, and then also El Paso, and then we did one right in Roswell. And for us, that was really important for our coaching staff because we want to get out and see all the talent within the state. Because there's some players, I think, that go under the radar a little bit, who they might not play on a Rio Rancho or a Cleveland or at a Hobbs or, some of those type schools, but they're really good players. So for us to be able to get it and go out on the road and see those kids was great for us in building relationships. We sent coaches into as many high schools as possible this past spring in the state of New Mexico, just for us to be able to get with and build relationships with high school coaches. Because when you look at the landscape of high school athletics in today's day and age, I really think that football is really the last stronghold as far as sport where the high school coach matters. Not that in the recruiting process, not that coaches don't matter in every sport, but you have like AAU basketball or travel baseball, those things. And all these kids have so many other coaches. But when it comes to football, like take Roswell, for instance, there's Roswell Coyote, like it's Coach Lynn, like he is their coach. And so for us to be able to have a great relationship with him, to be able to recruit his players is something that's really important to us. And to your point, being able to have all those teams on campus this past Friday was just something that, that we stressed here with our coaching staff, our administration, just being able to have that many kids on campus to see everything that Eastern has to offer. Because I will tell you that the first time I drive into Portales, you drive on the main road and you see Greyhound Arena, you see the stadium, but then you don't see the rest of campus. But when you go through Eastern's campus and all those kids are able to see everything we have to offer, I just think it's a beautiful campus and really a hidden gem.
Yeah.
And so for us to be able to get those kids, the kids that we're recruiting, that we've offered, I thought it was just a great way for us, again, to be able to show these kids that, man, you can stay here in the state of New Mexico, play in a great conference, in a great program with good tradition, and you're going to be taken care of with all the resources here at ENMU.
Last question we've got time for today, Coach. What are you looking at for this year? How's the team? I know it's preseason and you're all excited right now, but give us a kind of your overview of how competitive the team's going to be this year.
I think we're going to be very competitive. One of the things that we talk a lot about as a coaching staff is that we're going to be better than we were last year. We returned over 65 players from last year's team, and that's with a good handful of kids that graduated. So we didn't lose a lot of kids to the transfer portal and those things. I get really excited about the few transfers that we brought in because we're really big on the high school class that we signed, that we want to develop them. And I can tell you that just with where we're at, we're going to be more competitive. We play with New Mexico Highlands week 1 in Las Vegas. So we're really excited that we're going to be playing both Division II schools in the state. And I would just say, not to be a broken record, but we're going to be better. We returned 8 out of 11 starters on defense. Really excited about the new defensive coordinator we hired. He actually worked at ENMU for 4 years. So he's got ties to the state. Our kids are a year older. They've been in the weight room, spring practice. I would never guarantee that we're going to win all 11, but we're going to be better and we're going to be more competitive. And I think that's where our kids have really bought in to what we're doing, is that we don't really want to look at it and put a win-loss piece right here and say, we're going to win this many games. The whole goal every day is to wake up and just be the best version of yourself, whatever that is, in the weight room, on the field, in the classroom, in your relationships with your family. And I think that we have a team that is really slowly starting to understand that and buy into that. And the team camaraderie is coming together, which is what it takes to win games.
Excellent. Coach Ty Hiatt, the head coach at the Eastern New Mexico Greyhounds. Anything else you'd like to mention before we finish up today?
No, just appreciate y'all having us on. Thank you.
Looking forward to also attending some of the games and listening to some of the games as well. So we're looking forward to to an excellent season for you. John Hauser promised me you guys were like the winningest football program in New Mexico. And and that can be done, actually. So
That's right.
it's a good deal. Good luck to you, Coach, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, you too.